I can remember back when I was in college, even though I did not do very well in college, there was one particular set of classes that I actually did really, really well in. In fact, those classes brought up my GPA, thankfully, and those were my philosophy classes. For whatever reason, I just really kind of took to philosophy, and I made A's, and I guess I took about 18 hours of philosophy in my undergraduate work, and I just loved it. And I remember my freshman year in college, I had Introduction to Philosophy. And I remember the professor specifically began the class talking about truth. And he's asking a bunch of college freshmen to tell him what is truth. And so all of us are kind of spouting stuff back at him. And I can remember vividly, he turned to the board and he wrote this definition of truth that I've always remembered. And he wrote on the board, truth is that which corresponds to reality. And I've never forgotten that. It's called the correspondence theory of truth. It's this idea that if something is true, then it's going to correspond to the way things actually are, right? It corresponds to reality. And I remember the professor, when he wrote that on the board, he turned towards us and he said these three things about truth that I had literally have not forgotten in almost over 30 years. And this is what he said. He told us, as a bunch of young 18 and 19-year-old students in his class, he said, listen, if you guys want to succeed in life, he said, you're going to have to know the truth, show the truth, and grow the truth. I remember just listening to him say those things, and I thought, God, what does he mean by that? And as he began to explain it, he was just talking about, you've got to be the kind of person that you go wherever the truth leads. You can't have so many biases in what you want to believe or what you want to think that you're willing to ignore information, ignore data. But you got to be somebody who says, hey, I'm going to try to do my best to just go wherever the truth leads. I want to know what the truth is. And that also includes the truth about me. I want people, if there's something that they need to share with me, I want to hear it, especially if it's critical, because I want to work on some things to help me continue to be just a better person, a better human being. And then he talked about this idea that we got to show the truth. And he said that, once you know it, now you got to live it out. The greatest people in life that we admire and respect, he said, are people who show the truth in their life. They're not perfect, and when they're not perfect, they acknowledge it. And if they make mistakes, they say, hey, I messed up, right? They know how to ask forgiveness to people. But they are people who are committed to showing the truth in their lives and not just putting up a front or an act to try to act like they're one thing, but they're not. See, we know people like that. And when we see people like that, people don't respect those people. It's one of the reasons, frankly, why I think a lot of politicians probably aren't highly trusted or esteemed, because it seems like they say one thing all the time and then they do completely the opposite oftentimes. But the third thing he said is that we have to be people who grow in the truth. And he said that's what our philosophy course that semester was going to be all about, was to actually begin growing in our understanding of the truth. Growing in the truth is that you've got to be someone who's a learner. You've got to be somebody who's committed to always growing and learning new things, growing in knowledge, growing in insight, growing in wisdom in your life. Right? These are those things that we want to keep growing as people. We should never stop growing in those areas. And so I want to always be reading. I want to always be seeking people who are more wise than me. I want to ask them questions. If I can find a mentor, I want to find a mentor that I can gain insights about life from. See? But that's the truth. See? That which corresponds to reality. And the greatest leaders, they know the truth. They show the truth in their life, and they grow in the truth. They're always hungry. They're always learning greater insights and wisdom and knowledge in their life. So I hope that encourages you and challenges you a little bit to really think about, what does the truth really look like in your life? If you commit to it, I promise you it's something that will pay back enormous dividends in the long run in every area of your life.